morning. 8:45, Thursday, April 7th. Public Auditor BJ Cruz joined us on the link here. Good morning, BJ.
Good morning.
Let's just go ahead and get right into it. I kind of wanted to start because you had a bunch of audits that had come out recently. Maybe fill in the gaps for me, but I know there was one on the Ancestral Lands Commission, and then I believe another one on Guam Waterworks.
Yeah, we just issued Guam Waterworks this morning. We've issued now 12 audits, and we may issue 2 more later on today. And I told all the agencies that they have until next Friday to get everything out. The date actually that they were supposed to finish their audits was supposed to be February 28th. Unfortunately, there was a glitch in the completion of the OPEB. And so the actuary didn't get it out until late February. And so I sent it to the, you call it Deloitte and EY, and their actuaries reviewed it. And so that was the reason why I sort of gave them a little leeway. But by February 28th, everything was done. So I thought that everybody would be finished during the month of March. And then it came towards the end of March, and I'm going, what's happening? And then discovered that everybody's just been sort of just lagging along. And so I told them April 15th, everything's published, with or without you, otherwise that's the drop dead date. Because the speaker has been trying to change the law to make March 31st the date that the Governmentwide audit comes out.
I see. So that's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, because I know I said let's dive right into it, but I didn't know he was going to that part of the pool. So basically what he's saying is the government-wide audit is coming out on when, BJ, April 15th?
No, all the agencies will. The government-wide audit needs to have all the agencies audits in so they can use the numbers from all of those to put together the government-wide financial statement.
Got it.
And so the government-wide audit probably won't come out, and I'm hoping within 6 weeks, which would make it June 1st. And I told them that that's still not acceptable to me. And so I thought you called me yesterday because you heard that I sent out a nasty gram to everybody.
I hear you send a lot of those. Yeah, BJ, this is a problem. We actually had you on. I want to say, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I feel like this is the same song and dance every year where you come on and you're saying, hey, agencies, get the stuff in so that we could do this audit.
Yeah, and part of the problem is that a number of the government agencies are dealing with a smaller workforce in their accounting department because they're all being hired away to the autonomous agencies. I lost another employee last month. He got almost a 50% increase to go to one of the autonomous agencies. And he wasn't even one of my senior people. I mean, he was one of my middle people, but he wasn't one of the seniors. And a 50% increase to go to the autonomous agencies was really, very, very attractive and lucrative. So
yeah.
he felt bad, but he had to go. And I'm hoping that what the legislature has been saying, one of them will hopefully introduce legislation to have it so that the HR department of the government of Guam and the autonomous agencies get together and they sit down and they truthfully talk about how much they're paying the accounting divisions people, the accountants and the auditors in their departments, and hopefully get some kind of equity between them. So that there's no pirating anymore. That people would be more willing to stay with an agency they've been with for a while rather than run off for a 50% increase someplace else.
So it kind of sounds like you're advocating for a government of Guam-wide 50% pay increase for accounting and HR personnel?
Not 50%, but I want equity is what I'm trying to reach for.
So BJ, how does that affect your operations when you're losing? Because this isn't the first person you've lost, and I know it's not going to be the last, but I feel like
we lost two within the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And so what happens is with these audits, the reason why I keep trying to tell the agencies, you got to get these out as early as possible, is because though the audits themselves are done by an external auditing agency like EY and Deloitte, when it comes back into the office still has to review it. When we do the highlights have to be quality assured reviewed, which means every sentence that goes into the highlight has to have something, evidence that behind it. It can't just be my spouting off on the radio. Everything has to have be linked back, and you can cross-link it to something else that shows that you got that information from a credible source, either the law or the books or something. But it's got to be footnoted, everything.
Yeah, it's got to be indisputable. I get it.
And so it takes up all the time, and so all my performance audits are on hold because nothing can happen during it was supposed to be the month of January and February was supposed to be, devoted to try to get these out. Now it's January, February, March, and it's now getting into April. And that's really affecting the release of my performance audits. And those got to get out too. And so, but with only 3 of my senior people still around and 1 middle management person, all 4 of them have to do the QARs of the 28 audits that are being done. And then now we're having even new people do the cold read because everybody's just trying to get everything out these next 2 weeks. So it's crazy at the office right now.
Wow.
I really feel bad for them, but I really have to commend them for putting in the hours that are necessary to get all these audits together and make sure that the highlights properly state what's going on in those agencies. And I really do hope that the stakeholders read it. We send it to the governor, we send it to the legislature, and we even publish it on our website. And I hope that people in the general public and the administration and the legislature take the time to read the audits. The highlights are just a summary. The MD&A, the management discussion and analysis, is a good explanation of what they're doing. But I have found that reading the notes in the back are really, really enlightening. It goes and it really explains what's going on. It might be in the highlights in 1 or 2 sentences, but in the notes, it's explained in 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, sometimes pages of explanation.
Yeah, but some of these audits are pretty juicy. BJ, we had a comment here. With the delay that you're experiencing, how do you feel it will affect the upcoming budget discussions at the legislature?
Well, they won't have the information that they need to decide what's going on. That's why I'm pushing the Department of Administration. I know that the last government agency audit is going to come out on the 15th, but I still need you at Department of Administration to use the next 6 weeks to get the Governmentwide audit out by June the 1st at the very latest, because the legislature needs that when they start deliberation.
Yeah.
And as the former chairman of budget, I understand the need for it. And so that's why I've been trying to push the date back. I've been trying to get everything finished, all the agencies done by February, and the Governmentwide audit out by March, so that when the legislature starts to write the budget in April and May, it would have the benefit of having seen that.
Right.
And so yesterday I sent out a nasty gram to all the agencies saying, this is just, unacceptable. I'm dismayed that we're so late in the issuance of the audits. I want a Gantt chart for next year that starts on May the 1st, explaining to me what you're going to start doing starting May the 1st throughout the summer to get everything ready, so that as soon as October 1st comes, you can start providing to the external auditor everything already. Everything's ready to go. But I want them to start the Gantt chart starting May the 1st, so that they use the entire summer to get everything ready, because I want everything out next February 28th, so that we can push the Governmentwide audit out by March the 31st. And hopefully we can do that. One of the things that I'm hoping is going to help is 3 of the large autonomous agencies got a new financial management information system. And I understand the Department of Administration is in the midst of procuring its FMIS, its financial management system. And if we get that, hopefully it won't be as difficult in putting together next year's audit.
BJ, you said that the delays that you're experiencing will temper the budget discussions coming up with the legislature because they won't have all the information that they need, right? But it kind of sounds like it'd just be the same thing that happened last year, where you had the administration not disclosing to the senators how much ARP was here, how much was there. And I just wanted to get, because you mentioned that you are the former Budget and Appropriations chair, but would you have been able to make a budget with the limited information before you?
Well, we devised the budget, we put it together. We had our own way of projecting what the revenue was going to be as best we could. Remember, everybody was criticizing the fact that I was very conservative in my projection, and then we always made sure that the budgets took care of the warm bodies that are currently in the departments, and just limit the expenditures for everything else. And so, yeah, we were able to do it, but it was really difficult, and not knowing where all this additional money is coming from. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, everybody's at loss trying to figure out, the hotels are supposedly down, but it seems that there's extra money coming in. People are supposed to be unemployed, but withholding taxes and corporate taxes have gone up. And I don't envy the budget chair at this point, because it's like, what is happening? I mean, we had an SDS meeting the other day, and it was like, how is that possible, that supposedly there's people that are unemployed or underemployed, but we're still getting more money in withholding and in corporate taxes? How is, and it's puzzling the economists, and it's puzzling those of us trying to make the decisions in government that don't have an economics background of how that's possible.
I wanted to, before we let you go, this Guam Ancestral Lands Commission audit, there was something in here that caught my attention, because we just had the speaker on, and this is there's been a discussion with Eagles Field and the proposed site for the governor's billion-dollar healthcare complex. And there are original landowners involved in the equation. And I know that they had a meeting with the governor. And from what they discussed with me, it appears that, well, they were told they're not getting the land back. And so that kind of begged the question about compensation. But we had the speaker on yesterday, and she said that no landowner has ever been compensated from the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission Land Bank. And reading this audit, the highlights of your Guam Ancestral Lands Commission audit, I think we found our why. As land bank rules and regulations challenges prevent landowners' compensation. As trustees and on behalf of qualified ancestral landowners, the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission shall establish rules and regulations for the administration, management, and development of all identified lands with resulting income to provide just compensation for dispossessed ancestral landowners. Since its creation, Ancestral Lands has faced many challenges regarding the establishment of the land bank rules and regulations. Without the land bank rules and regulations, Guam Ancestral Lands has yet to start the just compensation of families who will not benefit from returned ancestral property. This has been a reoccurring challenge as far back as the fiscal year 2012 financial audit. A draft of the land bank rules and regs was submitted to the Office of the Attorney General in April 2017. The AG subsequently rejected the draft and opined that until such time when the Guam legislature amends the current statute with specific language for definitions and payments, the Ancestral Lands Commission will be unable to submit legally acceptable rules and regs for compensation to dispossessed ancestral landowners. Proposed legislation to amend Chapter 80, Title 21 has been in progress since January 2021. The Ancestral Lands Commission and Executive Director will continue dialogue with the administration and Guam legislature to finalize land bank rules and regs. I think I missed that one because, we've been talking about this compensation. I think we've reached out to John Birch a few times to kind of figure out exactly what is the process with the land bank. And I don't think it was ever mentioned that they didn't even have rules and regs in place. So what, from your understanding, BJ, what is the timeline on getting these things implemented? And what's it going to take?
As we put in our highlights, it's going to take passage of legislation out of the legislature, clarifying definitions and provisions, and they're aware of it, as the highlights pointed out.
Yeah.
Well, the legislature knew about it since an audit in 2012. They started to look at it. A set of rules was submitted in 17, but it was applying to be not compliant with laws, and so they've tried. I'm hoping that they've written now the provisions that would satisfy the Attorney General's office.
I guess based on this audit, were you able to determine if there is enough money after we get rules and regs stood up to pay out any of these original landowners? And then how does that work?
It's not going to pay out everybody, but the way that the Ancestral Lands Commission was written and created, it was supposed to provide some assistance to families whose land could not and would not be returned. All right, it would pay for those whose land was underneath the runway at the airport, because that would never be returned to them. Whereas the landowners who got land along the cliffside and along the Route 8, they got their land back, so they shouldn't get any money from the land bank. But the families whose land was underneath the airport, like Benny Crawford was insisting, his families was under the airport and would never come back. They should get some money. And the land bank has in excess of 10 million right now. They can make some payments, they can do some things, but I really don't think that's going to be enough for all the land that has not been returned. But it has some money, but not. I really don't think enough. and the rules are going to have to state how much is going to be provided under. And I think one of the questions is going to have to be, is the fair market value of today, or the fair market value when it was taken? How is that set?
Wow.
That's going to be the biggest stickler in rules.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the proposed legislation or the proposed rules, so I can't comment.
So $10 million, in your estimation, I mean, just given the facts that you have, before you, maybe from this audit, would we even begin to get to the Eagles Field landowners if we were to pay out this 10 mil to all the original landowners who, for whatever set of circumstances, can't get their land back? All the ones that have come before Eagles Field? No, right?
Yeah, but it would have to, yeah. The issue then would be compensation of how much, and would it be the fair market value of the property when it was taken in 1950, or would it be the fair market value today? Because that there's quite a difference in that.
Yeah, I'll say.
And I wouldn't, they're going to have to figure that out. And so that's why I think some of the landowners would rather have a land exchange than have cash, because they're afraid that it's going to be 1950s value as opposed to today.
Or that it might take forever because we don't have rules and regs, and that's got to go through the whole debate and process, right? Well, thanks, BJ.
No problem.
Have a good one.
I'm glad you're reading the highlights, at least, of the audits that are coming out, and hopefully people will start covering them. But a lot of effort goes into it, and I'm hoping people will read them.
Yeah,
it's on our website, it's on our Facebook, it's everywhere.
And thank you for the explainer. If you guys, we put up all our interviews on the link. We put them up on YouTube. And so what the public auditor did, he's actually done this a few times when he's come on, is he provided kind of like an explainer. When you watch these little videos and they're like, here's how you, go on the KUAM podcast network or whatever. So what the auditor did earlier in this interview was he talked about how to read these audits, where to find all the juicy stuff, basically, which is you look at the highlights and then you go to the notes in the back, which kind of expand on the highlights, right, BJ?
Right.
All right, so my reading and comprehension is still up there. Got it.
And you listen, actually.
I'm trying. Thank you, BJ.
Thank you.
That's there you go. Public Auditor BJ Cruz, 909. Docomo Pacific.